Hi, and welcome to Complete and Cast, the official podcast for Complete and Box video games. Today, on episode 48, Parker.
Wow.
Can you believe it? I mean, we're almost at 50.
That's 2 away from 50.
And 50 is half of 100. And 100 is half of 200.
Yeah.
I could go on.
Could you?
I went to math class.
Yeah, you were a math major. Never mind.
No, I just went to math class. That's all I really did. So in episode 48, we're joined by Parker. Spoilers!
Believe it or not.
Believe
it or not, I'm back on the podcast.
We had 2 whole episodes without Parker. One where I did solo, and then one with Michael Kenny from Nebraska. So, consider your spot vacated.
Yeah, exactly. Collect your stuff. We replaced you with nobody and a guy over Skype.
A guy over Skype. Yeah, if I would prefer to do a podcast in room, I would. By the way, Skype didn't work for us. It was being very weird, so we had to do it via Facebook Messenger. And it was tough. It was like,
imagine.
There was like 1 or 2 times we'd be like, "What's that?" And I'm like,
"What's that?"
Don't blame you, but for how we had to do it, it went up okay. So, yeah, episode 48. We are on game review number 18. Parker, can you believe it?
I can.
18 is 82 off of 100. If we did 82 more game reviews, we'd be at 100.
All right, I follow the math so far.
Today, then that's all the fun we're gonna have today, because today we're talking about Life is Strange.
Before the storm.
Bad.
Yeah, sorry.
So if we were like, we're going to talk about Life is Strange, it'd be like,
cool.
No.
Before the storm.
Oh, well, no, I'm instantly unhappy. So Life is Strange
the storm is what's fun. Before the storm, yeah. I don't even care.
I mean, just I don't. Before the storm might not, shouldn't even exist. I just want to be in the storm at all times, So one of our earlier episodes, we reviewed Life is Strange. Life is Strange is a adventure game that kind of toes the line between a bunch of different genres. It's kind of like a teen romance, teen high school angst kind of game.
Yeah.
But at the same time has a lot of really cool time travel-y kind of things.
Right.
I'm surprised. I'm still surprised I like it, because I hate almost all things that are like angsty high school.
Yeah, but it really is just the mechanic. The mechanic is what makes the game really awesome.
But also, I really like this. Like, I just liked everything about it.
The story's great, but like I think that the mechanic is just so amazing that like you can have a conversation, say some things, mess up, or gain information, and then rewind it and have the same conversation again, where you like know what to say perfectly. Is like something that like I end up making every game that has decision trees into Life is Strange, because I literally just restart the game. Like I just like say something, I'm like, nah, I'm not happy with that, because I'm like obsessed with getting like the good ending or whatever, and so like I just end up restarting parts over and over. So this was just like, oh, you could actually just do that. And it's like, oh, this is awesome. I love it.
And that was the big thing that made Life is Strange so cool. And I guess that would be the big reason why... One of the big reasons why we're not a big fan of Before the Storm.
I mean, it was definitely odd when they announced it, because it was like, what? Like, what is it? I mean, I'm already odd. Like, it's odd, but you can be like, okay, well, maybe if they're announcing it because they're saying, like, this doesn't have anything to do, we just know people like this story a lot and the characters a lot, so you get to see more of them. But then, like, they're announced a sequel to Life is Strange, and I'm just so confused, because after playing this, especially, just like, unless they come up with an amazing mechanic, I just don't know that I'm going to care, because, like, the story is not going to be enough. Like, it needed the mechanic, because the story of this was okay. It wasn't, like, horrible, like, on the surface, but, like, because there was no cool mechanic driving the whole thing, I just was just like, So,
before we get started into this, let me just say that we're not going to be talking about the plot or anything for Life is Strange too much. I don't want this to be the longest of episodes.
Right.
So check out that episode if you want to know more about that, and keep in mind that...
And you really don't need... I
guess that's true. You really
I mean, there's
don't.
a couple of moments, a couple of things that we can touch on, but mostly we won't.
So the main thing is Life is Strange is the story of Max and Chloe. And Max has this that power to kind of travel back in time. She struggles with the fact that she has this power, blah, blah, blah. Life is Strange Before the Storm is the prequel to Life is Strange.
Yeah, and so in in Life is Strange, you and Chloe are like trying to figure out what happened to Chloe's friend Rachel Amber, her like disappearance, and you're like trying to figure out what happened. And so in this, Before the Storm, it's centered on Chloe and this Rachel Amber character like becoming friends and like, you know, whatever. So you get to see behind the, like, you get to see that relationship form from when you were playing Life is Strange. They kept referencing Rachel Amber, but you never like knew who she was because she was always dead or missing. But when the story started,
So on the surface level, the fact that Life is Strange, a majority of the game is about figuring out what happened to Rachel Amber, and if I remember correctly, like one of the very first things that happens is they talk about Rachel Amber and all that,
and Chloe's like gushing over her because clearly she's in love with her or was in love with her or whatever. You know?
I initially thought it was a pretty good idea because when you like introduce a character that you never hear about and they like build him up a lot, there's two distinct ways you have to go about it. The first is you have to never find out who they are. Like, you just have to, like, just put them on that pedestal.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of an example.
There's
lots of examples out there, but, like, nothing's coming to mind. But, you know, someone where you're like, oh, my Cousin Joe, he's the coolest guy, right? And if you only hear about Cousin Joe and how cool he is, great. But then you meet Joe, and he sucks, right?
Yeah. Or he's just fine, but because of the build-up, you're like, this guy sucks. But if you wouldn't have had any build-up, you might even like him. But because of the build-up, you're like, I hate this guy.
So that's what happens with Rachel Amber. She is I don't like her. Like,
yeah, she's like kind of like cool in some ways. You can see how they tried to make her be cool, but like a lot of times she's just kind of like awful to Chloe, and you could just tell Chloe's just like, you know, got those like I fell in love with somebody and so I have blinders on to all their like mistakes or whatever, and so you're just like ugh, and you're just like annoyed by her like just teenageriness, but also like thinking she's better than she is, like that kind of like thing that only teenagers can get when they like think they know the whole world, and you're like 17, like knock it off, like you haven't seen anything, and they're like, I know how the world works, and it's like,
so just hitting, I don't want to go, I mean it's 3 long chapters, so I don't want to go over the whole thing in terms of story, but generally it's the like it's Chloe getting closer to Rachel Amber.
Then a lot of missteps happen. They start hanging out for the first time. They ditch school together. Then Rachel sees her dad like stepping out of the marriage, and there's this whole subplot there. But then it turns out it's Rachel's like biological mom. So you're like, oh whoa.
Oh yeah, so I mean that's an actual pretty cool part. That ends chapter 1, and you're like in this forest, which by the way, Rachel Amber burns down. Yeah,
so like she reveals that the person she saw was her dad kissing this woman that wasn't her mom. And so she's like really mad at her dad, and she like has a picture of her family with her dad and her mom, and she like burns it in a waste paper basket, like in some sort of like teenage defiance to be like, I'm burning this relationship. But then she like knocks the can over and like starts screaming, and then like a wildfire decimates an entire like side of a mountain and like probably kills people. Like, I feel like we didn't delve into some of the like extra texts, but like I'm sure there was at least a mention that somebody died in one of those like newspaper articles or something, because there's no way you have a giant wildfire bust out and they reference people fighting it. Like, they reference the fire department like going out and fighting it for hours, because you like at one point see like at the hospital there's like firefighters that are like exhausted, like just like sitting there, and clearly they're in a hospital, so like unless one of their guys is like hurt, it's like, jeez.
Yeah,
like,
so you assume that one of them was hurt doing it and they're waiting for him.
Yeah, and which means that it's really easy to believe that somebody else probably just died, you know, like maybe not a firefighter, maybe just somebody like that was out, but like somebody had a house nearby, like their whole house is gone. Like, even if nobody died, the destruction alone is like life-changing. Like, oh, my entire like life got burned up. Luckily I survived, but now I have to rebuild my whole dang life because like my house burned down. Like, because this girl like was mad at her dad for kissing a woman. It's like, it's like it can't get any more like annoying teenage high school than that. Just like doing something because you like are so mad at the world that like has like large effects to like everybody else. It's like, oh my god.
Was that before or after Chloe got kicked out of school?
That was after, because like they ditch school and they hang out, and then they get called out for it by the principal, and Chloe like goes to bat for Rachel so that Rachel gets to stay in school and Chloe gets kicked out, and then they hang out again after that, and that's when like they.
So I mean, another thing to show you how just kind of crappy Rachel is like. Chloe, when Rachel's just like, yo, let's just school.
It might have been the day after. Like they might have.
Okay.
The day of them hanging out ended with the fire starting, and then they just went home and went to bed. And when they woke up the next day, and that's when she got called in the principal's office.
Yeah. So Chloe's at school, and Rachel's like, let's ditch school. And Chloe at first is like, I don't really know. Like, I'm already in enough trouble, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
By the way, her...
I mean, obviously, you're making all these decisions, so you can choose to be, like, cautious with her or not.
But I assume you still always end up going there.
Yeah, I guarantee that
this is a
telltale. This is a telltale game in a lot of ways, where the plot, like, you really have no say in, like, major things of the plot.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like real surface level details that you can really change with your decisions. Pretty much everything is just like, yeah, I gotta do this. I mean, I have no choice.
But the big point is Rachel, no matter what, comes up to you with the idea. By the way, Chloe's mom is not a part-time, a full-time waitress who like constantly struggles to like keep them like afloat.
Yeah.
And Chloe was going to a decently prestigious
like
private
an
school.
Academy, a private school that her mom was like struggling to keep her daughter in, and like, I mean, like probably like in reality, like getting kicked out of the school probably like helped her mom in a way, because then it was like, all right, well at least I don't have to pay for that anymore, even though all the money she put towards it was now just wasted. But like at least it was like, well, you don't have to pay that bill anymore.
So I mean, you step up for Rachel for. I mean, you pretty much again, like Parker said, have to eventually do that.
Yeah.
No matter how you go about it, and you get kicked out of school. Rachel gets to stay in.
Right.
Later on, you find out that Rachel his family is very well off.
Yeah.
So like she could have easily gotten kicked out and like gotten picked up at any other school, or. And we all know the world works like this. The dad who's like the federal
he's the DA.
He's the DA. Could have went to the guy and greased the wheels.
Absolutely.
So like
she could have taken the fall for the whole thing and then been like, the dad would be like, come on, you're not gonna kick her out, and you'd be like, yeah, you're right, you know, like that,
or
that's
like
how it would have ended.
I heard you need that new addition to the library.
Yeah, exactly.
You could, right? Like everyone, like we all know the world works that way. So like. But, like, you know, Chloe and Chloe's mom, like, couldn't do that.
No.
So, already Rachel sucks in that way, in that, like, you get kicked out of school, she burns down a forest in, like, a big forest town.
It's like
potentially,
Seattle. It's like Seattle. It's like, or it's outside of Seattle.
It's outside of,
it's like,
isn't it Oregon? Like, outside of Portland?
Yeah, it's like in Oregon area, so it's like
the Great Northwest.
Yeah, it's just like like all these big forests and these big mountains.
So all this nonsense happens, and even after that, Rachel's always constantly like, "No, let's do this. Like for instance, another one that like I would have hated, like if someone did this in real life, like you as Chloe go to see Rachel performing this play, and Rachel's just like, oh,
somebody can't come to the play due to all the road closures from the wildfire that's still raging. So somebody that was at the that was supposed to be like Lysander or something, like couldn't make it to the play, and so like what happens? Rachel just like pulls Chloe onto stage and is like, just read along with the parts, it's fine. And like you're like, are you kidding me right now? Like what? And like Chloe's like, I don't want to do this, and then just like. All of a sudden it's too late and she's on stage in like a weird outfit, and it's like, oh my gosh, like what a friend.
So I think a lot of people like had friends like that like sometimes it's for the best.
Right.
If you're more of an introvert and there's a friend that's like, no, dude, listen, we got to do this. And
Yeah.
you're like, you look back and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, that was really fun.
But then there's the friends that are like, dude, you got to do this. And then you look back and you go, nah, that wasn't very
Man,
fun.
I
And
shouldn't have listened to
that's
that person.
Rachel.
Right.
So, like, even
now, like comparatively, it's like ditch school to go burn down a forest. Like, obviously, don't do that. Like, the pull you on stage thing would be fine, but it's connected to all this previous stuff, so that it's still just like annoying and reckless. Like, whereas like if it would have been like just being friends and then she pulls you up on stage to play in a play, I could see that being kind of fun. Like, oh, good, I'm glad they pulled her out of her shell, but like. Not after all the other crazy stuff. It's like, jeez.
So the second half of the game, the main plot point becomes that we find out that the woman that Rachel's
that started this whole thing.
Yeah, that Rachel's dad was kissing in the forest actually was Rachel's actual mom.
Yes.
And we find out that the trophy wife of her dad is obviously not her mom.
Right, but she has been raised her whole life thinking that's her mom.
100%.
100%. She does not know that she had a different mom. She's like, wait, what?
So you have to find out about, your mom and like where she is, and it turns out that she's like just
drug addict.
Just a bad character.
Right. Bad character.
And it gets you as Chloe deeper into stuff. You end up like having to like confront like drug dealers and stuff like that to figure
literally
to just get information
at a certain
about
point
this.
You are like destroying evidence against the town's drug dealer because you like Rachel's dad is the DA and you're sneaking into his office destroying evidence for like a case against this guy like shell casings like and stuff like literally because like this guy like shot somebody and you're destroying this evidence so that then like you could go and like find out more information about where Rachel's mom is, and it's like, good lord, like what are you getting yourself into? Like, and it's so like comparatively, like that's the thing. Like, if this was just a story in and of itself, I might have liked it a little bit more and just been like, oh man, this is just a crazy situation that these people find themselves in. But like, we have a separate story that involves Chloe, and like. While in Life is Strange, I mean, I feel like I remember when we did the podcast, like, we didn't love Chloe.
No.
Like, we liked Max, we didn't love Chloe. And, like, but, like, you just kind of, like, be like, well, that's just, like, some people are like that. But, like, after this, like, playing this prequel, I, like, hate Chloe. I mean, I hate Rachel, but I, like, really don't like Chloe. And, like, and now I'm really mad that, like, the good ending in Life is Strange is Chloe and Max end up together. Because Chloe is, like, horrible after this. Like, and it's just like, geez. Like, I mean, I guess it's nice to think that, like, after all this tragedy, like, there's a redemption story for Chloe that her and Max, like, maybe, like, end up having a good life together. But, like, I don't want Chloe to have a good life. Like, she's so awful to everybody.
If you look at Chloe as a character, like, she does have the one big tragedy in her life that you obviously feel bad for, and that's her dad was killed.
Right. At a very young age, very tragic.
In a car crash and all that
stuff. So it's like, ripped away at the blink of an eye.
But, like, it's been time. There's been time that passed, and there's just all these decisions over and over again that she keeps making them, and, like, you see that, like, her mom, like, they don't live in a great house, but they live in a house. They're not homeless, right? Like, her stepdad, her stepdad's kind of a hard ass, but especially in Before the Storm, like,
that's the
it's
crazy
weird.
thing.
That's the weird part because in Before the Storm,
the craziest part.
David, right?
Yep.
David, her stepdad, is like cool the whole time.
Yeah, he's pretty chill. Like, there's
no
a few moments where he gets a little bit hard, but like.
But if that was my daughter, I would too.
But also, he's not living in the house at the time, so he's definitely like being very cautious about how much he tries to parent Chloe, because he's like, look, I'm not stepping over a bound. I'm not even married to this woman, so I'm just gonna like be a little bit of a like, hey, maybe you should think twice about that. But like, and he might cross the line a couple times, but like I put that in quotes because it's like that to Chloe's perspective, to a normal person's perspective, it's like, dude, this guy is like, he knows what he's talking about. Like, but the crazy part is, like, Life is Strange, the original game, like the whole story, David is like awful, but you like, if you're kind of really paying attention, you feel like the character's being written in a way where they seem awful, but they're actually kind of cool. And like it, like you can kind of tell it pretty early on, even though they try very hard to make it look like he's like this military guy, meathead guy that like won't listen to anybody.
Doomsday prepper kind of thing.
They make him out to be this way, but you start to be like, he just seems like he really loves his family and wants the best for him, and like he's maybe not going about it the best way, but like, and he's maybe a little bit too paranoid, but like you can tell all the stuff he's doing ends up being like legit because he saves the day with like this like crazy abductor pedophile that's like killing the people in the town. So like he ends up being redeemed in the end of the story, and you're like, oh wow, that guy was awesome the whole time. But, like, if you're smart enough, you probably even noticed it halfway through or even sooner that he's actually pretty cool. So then they do this prequel where they try to make him, like, also be kind of, like cool. But then you're like, but then how did this other story begin with him being awful if he's cool in this old one? It just really, like, you don't... Prequels are tough in that
That is the hard part about prequels, because you know the ending.
Right. I know David's awesome. So, like, they can't write him as a jerk. Because if they did, you'd be like... Like, if they write him doing something actually bad, then you'd be like, oh, well, that kind of sucks, because he ends up being the hero of the second story. But, like, so, like, they had to make him kind of cool in a way, because you're like, oh, you know, because he ends up being the good guy in a way. So, like, they don't want to write him like a bad guy. And so, like, they kind of try to walk this, like, tightrope, and it doesn't ring very true, because he's, like, kind of a hard ass, but then not, and it's just like...
If I had one question for, like, the writing team of this, I would be like... it would involve Rachel Amber. It's like, what were you going with Rachel in this
right.
game?
Like, what were you going
Because it's a prequel that leads directly up to Life is Strange. If you played this first and played Life is Strange, you would be like,
what?
Oh my god. Like, they're talking about Rachel Amber that way? And, like, yes, if we're going to talk, like, reality, like, when people are gone, like, we do tend to view it a different way, but we're not going to be like, that guy sucked. You know what? Actually, he ruled. Like, you might, like, forgive some things, but you wouldn't be like, oh, Rachel... Like, literally every single person you talk to in Life is Strange is like, Rachel Amber the best. Just the best forever.
Yeah.
Right?
Everybody loves Rachel Amber.
Right? And, like, that's part of the thing is, like, you can't get away from people talking about her. And it's like, there's nothing that she does in this game that I'm like, wow, you know, she really was great.
Now, like, the only thing I'll say is that, like, it's clear that, like, at least a couple years pass between this end of Before the Storm and Life is Strange proper. Because, like, and it kind of has to be that way. Because, like, this story culminates with, like, you finding out that Rachel's, you know, like, that this, you confront the drug dealer, and then, like, Rachel's mom, like, she died.
So let's go over this real quick. The ending that we got, I don't know if there's different ones, and I gotta be honest.
No, it's the same ending. The only difference, the only big choice I remember reading is whether you tell Rachel or not.
Yeah.
The real
right.
truth.
Okay. So let me go back to the penultimate scene, the second to last scene. You end up that Rachel's mom is being, like, bound and gagged in this, like, abandoned barn by this crazy drug dealer or whatever. Right. And the scene is just so stupid because she's like...
you find out, that the dad is in on it. The dad is trying to kill Rachel's mom with the drug dealer.
Right.
You find this out because the drug dealer reveals the plan and this and that, like... And it's clear that, like, there was this, like, trade-off where the dad, the DA, was going to destroy some evidence for Damon... And then and give him some money, and then Damon was going to kill Rachel's biological mom in a way that made it like just be like, oh look, her life ended in tragedy because she had such a terrible life. So like that takes her out of the picture and lets Rachel live like a normal life with the dad. So the dad's like going to this crazy extreme, right? Like to kill Rachel's biological mom because he's tired of her like showing back up. Like apparently she's sober in this. Like she got clean and is like ready to like have a relationship with the daughter, and like the dad's like, no, you can't, because like he wants to like not have like Rachel get hurt anymore. So, like, you sort of understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, it's like, well, if she is truly clean, why can't she have a relationship with her daughter? Like, it seems like, why do you get to say this is the way it is?
Yeah, and the dad is never, Rachel's dad is never, like, presented in a way that he's, like, cool or you like him.
No.
But he's not, like, it, like, really flips him 180 degrees.
Right, all of a sudden.
Do we ever find out what happens to him at the end? Like, is he, like,
no, she just,
prosecuted?
No, you do not find that out. What happens is you make that last decision whether you tell Rachel the whole truth, which includes her dad is like this horrible guy, or you lie to Rachel and you just say like, oh, your mom like, she like it was just a horrible accident, and it is what it is.
Before we go there, let me just finish talking about the scene in the barn because it's especially stupid.
Yeah.
Right. So she's in the
even though there were 3 long chapters, they still realized when they got to the point in the barn that there was like a bunch more story to tell. So then they just like have Rachel's mom like exposition it all to you for like an hour.
So yeah, and we finished this late at night, so it was especially excruciating.
She's just talking.
So like you walk in, she of Chloe, 16-year-old, skinny girl with like no weapons or very few weapons, walks in against this crazy like killer dude, right?
Like,
so she gets knocked out, right?
Yeah, immediately.
And so she gets knocked out.
Like, he's like, "What are you doing here?" And you have like one chance to say something, and you're like. And then he just like walks over and like knocks you out.
So as you're knocked out and like kind of waking up, like there's like a scuffle going on, and you realize that this other drug dealer guy, he of probably 170 pounds soaking wet, like I forget what's his name, the blonde guy, Frank, comes in and apparently
because he's in the real game.
Right, he's in the real game, right? So apparently he comes in and like kills or takes out this like crazy drug dealer who's been going around the whole game, just
terrorizing
beating the crap out of everyone. But Frank comes in and is able to just like do it.
Yeah,
and it's explained.
He literally ends that like big football player's career by like hitting him in the knee with a club.
We're talking about the final boss. Like literally,
like literally at one point like he like has a scuffle with this like the one high school kid who's like you when you sneak into his room, you like read. He's got like 1 million emails from all these prospective schools. Like the dude's gonna like be like free ride anywhere, probably GoPro, all this stuff. And like this Damon guy like wants his money
for like
$1,000 or something.
And I made that point when we were playing. I'm like, I understand. Like no drug dealer. I have a lot of experience here.
Right.
But like no drug dealer is gonna be like.
I'm gonna assault a high school.
Yeah, I'm gonna take any chance, and he does it
at the school, in the door.
So he has a chance of going to jail for years for $1,000. Like if someone owed me $1,000,
I'd be $10,000. I'd be like, no.
I'm gonna break your knee for Like I mentioned at the time, I'm like that is a small time drug dealer. It's like, $1,000. That's my whole payroll.
So that guy's just a psychotic. Like he's just like he would do that if there was no money because he'd have to believe that.
So anyway, he goes through the whole game just messing with everyone, and then Frank off screen is like I forget if
kills
it's
him and buries him.
I forget if it's like Rachel's mom is like, oh, Frank came in and killed him, and it's like, thanks. Like, it's just, I can't begin, you have to just kind of know these characters, but I can't begin to say how, like, quick of an end that is. It's just like, I don't know, like, oh, what happened to Terminator? Oh, dude, like
they show Frank...
8-year-old Kyle Reese came in and just, or 8-year-old John Connor came in and just killed him with his bare hands.
Yeah.
Oh, really? The Terminator? Yeah, I mean, you were asleep, but...
Yeah, sorry, it happened. It was crazy.
But that's how T-1000 died. You were asleep, but... It's just terrible. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I remember just being like... And at that point, you knew it was ending, but you're still like, oh, damn. And I gotta be honest, we finished this like a week or two ago. I forget if Rachel's mom actually died because they try to make
she doesn't.
They try to make it seem like a heroin overdose.
She does say you need to not ever tell my daughter what her dad did. Like I don't want her to suffer anymore. Right. And so she like after all this, Rachel's mom finally is like, fine, I'll leave. And it's like, why didn't you just leave from the beginning? Like, if that was how it was going to end, with Rachel's mom just, like, giving up and leaving, why didn't you just never come around? Like, what was all this for?
So,
it was all useless.
I feel like what you're supposed to do, if they would have written Rachel's character that you like her, I feel like this would be a much tougher decision to tell her or not tell her. We told her.
Right.
Because I don't like Rachel, and I don't care.
Right.
Like if your friend is going
and
to
I didn't like her dad, so I'm like, good, let him be an awful
who
guy.
Who cares, right?
I didn't like anybody.
Right, it's and it's a much more, for us as a viewer, it's a much more interesting thing than being like, everything's great, your mom went to the farm.
Yeah, right. Like,
she's running around all day, kid.
Yeah. Oh, your mom, she just ran off, she hates you, and whatever, and your dad's the best guy ever.
Yeah, it's like so, and I don't even understand, like, at that point, like, the drug dealer was dead, so, like, she could, like, I feel like she could have came back in her life at that point, like, I don't know what would have stopped
I don't know
it.
why she was suddenly like, you need to never I'm like,
it really
what was all this for?
Like, it really came out of nowhere. Like, I know you would, like, take time, you're like, wow, somebody kidnapped and tried to kill me, but at that you'd be like, I've gone this far. Justice needs to be done, right? And that's just
it's like, what is the point of everything?
No,
like that's what's crazy. Is that like so much happens, and then it's just like, it's fine.
So we told her, and all the ending scenes are her just being like mad
and looking at the dad, and the dad's like, "Oh God, my life is over," and it's just like, fine.
But it doesn't show him being like cuffed away.
Yeah,
like
no,
you just assume she's just like, I have no dad, and it's like, well, but what about the attempted murder charges, right? Like, remember those?
Like, that might have been because basically the way it worked at the end there, remember, was like a bunch of like scenes, and then it ended with like
okay.
That ending is so ridiculous.
So just really quickly, this ending is the only reason I'm giving this story a little bit higher than I thought I was going to. It's amazing. So, as we said before, Rachel's dead in the first game,
right.
And as you find out in the first game, this teacher who seems super nice ends up being the psycho killer,
and
he lures people into his kill chamber, which is like a crazy lab underneath a barn, right?
Yeah, and
so like after all this,
pictures of them and he kills them.
After all this nice
indie
whatever. Music, right?
Yeah.
At the very end of the game, you see a quick shot of what, and they did actually a really good job of setting this up, of what's pretty clearly this guy's place. Right, his torture chamber or whatever. So there's a phone on the table, and it keeps ringing, and it says Chloe calling, and it says like 18 missed calls.
Well, because it shows her and Chloe having a friendship after the tragedy.
Yes,
where she like pulls up to the school and like Rachel jumps in and they drive off, and the principal's like, no, and it's just like, just totally like every like
right. So
like there's all these like, oh, they had this great friendship and they fell in love and whatever, and then it just shows Rachel's cell phone and it's ringing.
And it just says Chloe. It says like 15 missed calls or whatever.
Right, and then it says 15 missed calls, and as it zooms out, you realize they're in that like kill chamber.
And I just like it's like it's
so
macabre,
amazing.
but it's funny.
So
like
hilarious.
Like
what an
so
ending.
The whole time you like it you know what was happening.
Right, you
like,
knew that this was coming.
If this was the first game and then they were leading into Life is Strange, it would be preposterous and terrible. Like,
well, they wouldn't have had that ending, obviously.
Right. But like imagine that kind of thing would be like ridiculous, right? Because you would be like, what the hell?
But yeah,
you wouldn't know what it is, but you'd still be like.
But if they just didn't show the cell phone and just ended with them being friends, and then the second game begins with like, Rachel's missing, you'd be like, where the hell's Rachel? Like, it would be like weird to then just have this whole other subplot. It'd be like, what the hell's happening?
So it was so bizarre after this like 10 straight minutes of like all this happiness happening, and like you knew they had to go there because that's what happened.
That's the whole
point of the first game. And again, I think their major point with it was like to remind you in like a shock and awe, like, oh my god kind of thing. But here's the thing. We didn't care about Rachel Amber, so we don't care.
Right.
If you would have made her like a super cool character, you're like, damn, that's right. Like, you could have gone through all this and like knew in the back of your head, but it's not in the front of your head, and you're like, oh yeah, crap. But like when I saw it, I laughed. I specifically remember I laughed really hard because I was like, that's great. Just because her character on the thing was whatever.
They could have made her like if they just would have out of the gate made her like the coolest, greatest character, you would immediately be like, I mean, I guess that's kind of a problem. Like, you would immediately be depressed because you know how her life ends. So
but there was no redemption arc at any point here.
No.
There was no, like, I can understand her sucking. That's how I feel that Chloe was in Life is Strange 1. She really sucked, and then she got a little bit better as it went on.
Yeah, right.
Which is generally how you want to do these characters.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, this... But, like, with this new story part, like, Chloe... I don't know, like, Chloe's, like, somehow a million times worse. Because, like, to have seen what she did in this one, like, for Rachel, who, like, she had, like, these love is blind kind of, like, blinders on and didn't, like, see what, you know, what Rachel was as a person, you know? Like, she just, like, was just like, oh, I'll do whatever you want. Yeah, I'll extort a guy for money. I'll burn state's evidence. I'll, like, whatever.
So, as a quick reminder, as far as our grading goes, it's on a scale from 1 to 10. We can do it by increments of 0.25 because we can. And because I want to.
Yeah.
Now, here's the deal. A 5 is an average. A 1 is absolutely the worst thing in the world. And 10 is Life is Strange Before the Storm. Just kidding. 10's amazing. We're talking about story. Yeah. I was initially going to give it a 5, which is as average as can be. But I really like that ending scene, so I'm going to give it a 6.
Yeah, I'm still with 5. I mean, that ending is funny, but, like, I hate the story.
Yeah,
like,
and the story does include the characters.
I guess I should say the characters. The story was fine. The story was good at some aspects, which is why I'm not giving it, like, a 4 or 3. But I hated the characters. Like, and I hated the way they did the characters, like, even the characters we know, like the David character. Like I just didn't like what they did with
it ruins
him.
Characters you otherwise actually like, which is really not what you want to do with stuff like that.
No,
it's literally like Star Wars prequel tier of like, wow, I thought I liked that character. Yeah. So, we're going to head into gameplay. Now, Spencer, you say to yourself, this is a adventure game. How could it have anything other than average gameplay? Or, more importantly, it's an adventure game. How could it control bad? Well, let me tell you something, Jethro. Let's talk about the controls first.
Yeah.
I have no idea how they... It's clearly built on the same engine. Why the hell would it not be built on the same engine? How... It's so hard to control. All you do,
but you don't do anything different than you did in the first one.
Yeah,
and the first one controlled just
it's so hard to control. Like dude, it sounds crazy, but like if you're walking straight ahead, then you have to turn right and press like X on an item. It's hard. It's so hard.
There was a time where
hard to explain.
Where we were literally just trying to click on a bird for this one thing.
So bad,
and it just took forever to try to turn her around to click on the bird, and then you click the wrong bird, and then you're. It was like, is this for real? Like, is this really what we're spending our time on? Like, what is happening?
I mean, like the very beginning of episode 1, like the first like hour, I was like, cool, and then after that, I was like, damn, we have to finish this, don't we? Like it became Resident Evil 6 tier. Well, we're this far, might as well do it. And like, I just can't describe how hard, like, controls are hard to describe. If you say, well, it's hard to control, I mean, I guess that says it, but like, you go to turn around and it takes like 2.5 seconds for her character to turn around. You go to like turn left and it's like not just turning left, it's like Resident Evil tank control, but without the tank control moves. It's like, and the worst part about this is like, you know, you would never, ever, ever expect to have a gripe like this in an adventure game. No. Like, I would never be like...
All you have to do is walk around. Yeah. All you have to do is walk around and click on stuff and have conversations.
It's not like you're like...
There's no story. There's no, like, anything for the gameplay. Yeah. Like, it's just walking around, having conversations, clicking on items.
And it's hard. And it's hard. It's hard as hell. It is Dark Souls tier.
I can't imagine speedrunning this game. You'd be so angry because they just like do stuff that you're like, why are you doing that? Like,
I cannot believe that I'm talking on an adventure game where you do nothing but controls, but it's super hard to control. One of the other things gameplay wise, I really actually this might be more graphics. We'll talk about that then. But yeah, just
the other big gameplay thing is instead of having time travel mechanic, which is like the greatest thing ever, they had to have something, and so what they went with was the fact that Chloe is like super badass or whatever. So like her whole mechanic is based on getting into arguments with people and saying the right thing I don't know if you ever played what was that? What's the Guybrush for Threepwood, Monkey Island. If you ever played Escape from Monkey Island, there's a whole like sub game where you have to like insult people the right way based on like insults they give, and it's like a like mini game or whatever. But like that's what this was. Basically, like somebody would say something and it would give you 3 or 4 options, and you had to pick the best comeback that kind of like put them in their place based on what they said. And so like it was a little bit like, I mean, some of them were pretty lame, but like, I mean, I get it. They were trying to do something because they needed a mechanic because they couldn't be like, well, there's no time travel, so there's nothing. So they had this, and like certain people you have a tougher time because like it'll be like you have to get 3 wins and they only have to get like 1 win, or like they only have to get like 2 wins and you have to get 4 or something.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's equal, but like for the most part, like that's how it worked. And you would just like get into these arguments with people, and like it was just like really like, and they weren't always like necessarily like making fun of the person, like with the one guy Elliot that was stalking you or whatever. Like you basically were trying to get him to feel bad about what he did and also convince him to thinking you were on his side. So it was like it was all just about manipulation. So
yeah,
like,
I mean,
which is a cool premise
right.
in it, sort of. If it wasn't in a game that had an awesome mechanic last time, it would be like okay, because you'd be like, oh, that's kind of clever.
I feel like if they had Life is Strange and like you played as Max 90% of the time and she had this cool time travel, but once in a while you had a Chloe mission, quote unquote, and you did this, it would be fine because you're like, oh, it's change of pace, right. It's silly, whatever. But like when it becomes the main gameplay thing, you're like, oh, geez,
right?
And like,
so there was a whole thing where you could tell. You'd be having conversation, and then you'd see one of the options would have this like blue icon next to it, and you knew that was gonna like trigger like an argument, and you were like, ugh, fine. Like that's not what you want. Like you want like the mechanic people to be like, oh cool, I get to do that mechanic.
Well,
instead it was just like, ugh,
sometimes
fine.
Like the ones that ended up being the winners of the argument were like lame. So like that you only get like 5 seconds to choose, and
that was the other part.
And there's 4 choices. So of course
you have to read them
they
all.
Can't write the whole thing out. So it's like, you know, up yours, buddy, or whatever is one of them. But then the thing she says is like 15 times lamer, and you're like, but that like if you just would have said like go take a hike, but it's like, well, blah blah blah. It's like. It's hard. You literally only have 5 seconds to do this, right? Which I get what they're going for, but it was too short of a time. But like sometimes the obvious one that you're like, oh, that sounds like it's a cool one, is like not right because they're like, oh, well, you know, actually, it's just it's dumb. It was just dumb. It was dumb.
But basically, all it came down to,
and it didn't happen too often either.
No,
it probably happened maybe 6-8 times the whole game.
Right.
So
yeah, maybe like a couple times per chapter, and that was it. But like. The thing was, like, that what it boiled down to is if somebody said, like, you know, like, you're going to regret this, and then the options are, like, no, I'm not, like, up yours, whatever, screw you, or, like, let's talk about regrets. And then it's like, okay, well, it's obviously that one because he said regret. And you click it, and then she, like, you know, is like, oh, you want to talk about regrets? And then the guy's like, whoa, well, and then he gets, like, all, like, on, you know, gets all defensive. And it's just like, so it's like basically pick the one that even like has a word similar or like sounds like it would be a response. It was just like,
if you had a little more time, it would be more acceptable. But like we literally had to like pause the game to be like, what did they say? Okay, this. It's probably this.
Right.
So it's like if you have to literally pause the game to come up with it fast enough, it's not. You don't have enough time. So I really didn't like it. I mean, the rest of it is normal adventure game, just done worse than other adventure
Like, remember
games.
when you're on the stage, and then it was like, the next part was you had to walk over to this one set piece, like the sinking ship, and stand by it. And it was like, I don't know if you were controlling it or I was, but it was just like, and it was like, people watching this play are probably like, what is happening?
It looked like you have an RC car and you're just out of range. Where like it like moves a little and then it moves. But that was us moving like correctly. So it was just like walk. But then like so like a game like Spider-Man I'm playing right now, which is a good game by the way.
Right.
When it tells you to go to something, like an icon appears there, like that didn't happen for this. So like we were just walking around in like a circle, like oh wait, and like imagine someone watching it like, are they having a stroke?
Yeah, what is happening?
Are you okay, miss? So yeah, it's just in general like it's
That's
like
rough.
like okay, so what I want from an adventure game is a really, really good story. I would give like a story an 8, 9, or a 10, right? And then gameplay, I'd be like, it exists. I don't care. It's not bad, right? 6 or 7.
Basic
gameplay. But this is bad. It like detracts from it. It's like not.
Absolutely.
It's not good.
Right.
And I'm giving it a 3 out of 10 because I didn't like it.
Yeah, I agree. Like to the point where, like, if anything makes me want to not play this game again, it's the gameplay. Like,
how about the unskippable cutscenes?
Yeah,
how about that?
That's pretty rough as well.
but
the fact that I'm gonna have to control this person again is just like, it's not worth it. If somebody was like, oh, like our big thing is always like, if somebody wanted to watch me play this, I would just say, watch a YouTube video.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm not playing it.
Yeah.
Like,
and we'll
literally,
get to that,
I do not want to.
We'll get to that for one of our other parts. So what are you looking at here for gameplay?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'll give it a 3 as well. That's pretty much on the nose.
Let's head over to a couple ones that should be at least decently positive. We have graphics. I don't really have too much to complain about here. It has kind of like that, like not cel shaded quite, but like
it looks like it's like art.
Yeah, it's not super
like,
realistic, which obviously a game like this, which is clearly lower budget, would fail at. Like if they tried to make it look like, again, a Spider-Man and make everything look great.
Yeah.
But it's not super cartoony. I like how everyone looks. Rachel Amber looks weird. Like I feel like this is just a personal thing on me, like I feel like her face model is like a little odd. Like, I don't know, just remembering back in my head, it's been a couple weeks, but besides that, and also her dad has a very, like odd...
Her dad was weird,
odd-looking face.
Yeah.
It's like they tried to get the, I'm a professional and I don't care, but there's
weird.
like a vacancy there.
Something,
it was very... But, like, in general, like, when the characters, their mouth movements are perfect.
Yeah.
A lot of the... I'll include this with graphics, a lot of the... like stuff you can interact with is cool. They have a lot of like clearly hand-drawn art. Mm-hmm. Just in general, it's pretty good. Now, I will talk about a bad part about the graphics, which is another inexcusably bad thing, which is, Parker, I don't know if you remember this, but when we were playing on the TV upstairs, the screen like doesn't fit right.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to explain this. I can't imagine. I've played a million PS4 games on that TV, and I've never had a time where I'm like, the screen. So like when you pause, right? Yeah. The screen, like the pause screen is like not centered correctly. Yeah. There's no option for fixing it. Like, you know how a lot of PC games, it's like, make the screen bigger or smaller. There's nothing like that. And it literally, like, there are literally some times where, like, the sides of things, like, you can't read or you can't see. Yeah. Because it literally, when you're playing the game itself, I've never noticed a time where it's, like, obvious that it's not fitting. Like, maybe just in general it doesn't fit and we don't notice. But when you're reading, like, a big, long, like, written thing and you're actually reading it and you notice, like, whoa! This is not the menu screen is not centered, right? And I don't get it. Yeah, I gotta be honest. Also, I don't understand.
When you would go to the cell phone, that was when it
was
here's
really
obvious.
Here's another really stupid one, and this on Cloud under graphics. So you have this. It's a pretty cool thing. You have this cell phone when you're out doing stuff. You'll get these texts, and you get to read them. You know, whatever.
And it's like the first one. You also look at a journal once in a while, and like Chloe will have written in it. So you can kind of follow the story along, and there's like all these like extra bits in there.
It's good.
Like
it's good attention to detail. I will definitely give them that. It's good attention to detail. But like the cell phone thing controls badly.
Yeah, it's just like getting cell phone messages somehow controls awful. Like, so like you can't once people are texting you. You can't do anything. You just have to let them text you and you respond. It's just happening. But like if you didn't read that very first line of the conversation, you don't want to follow along because it started so quick that you missed the first part of the conversation.
They kind of do it where like every second or so, or every 2 seconds, there'll be like a new message that pops up.
But you have to wait until the conversation is done to scroll back up and then read it again.
Right.
Like, and it's just like, what is happening?
I don't.
And also, it's cut off. in a weird way.
Yes,
Like,
again, it's cut off in a weird way. Like, go play this game on PS4 and tell me if it's the same, because like I've never had a PS4
so
game
odd,
like I've never been like, well, damn, if only I could read the bottom of the screen on this PS4 game. Like, I've never had that happen before, but like that's legit how it happens. And some of these text conversations are very long.
Oh yeah.
So like you have to like would just be like,
done,
look away,
scroll
up, rather slowly, mind you.
Yeah.
It's very slow scroll. And then you have to start from the top and kind of read from there.
And then you get to the bottom and you're like, well, that didn't mean anything.
But if you like press the button for like the phone thing, the phone text, it like automatically starts. So if you're not instantly eyes on the screen right there,
right,
you're missing the first one, and you're like, all right, okay, well, whatever. You know what?
How odd, like, controls on the cell phone, which you don't even like. It's not even like if you actually had like conversations on the cell phone, like that would make sense. Why there'd be like, a problem with the controls, because it was like a thing you could actually control. It's literally just reading a menu, and somehow it's like broken. Like, like, what is happening with this game?
Let's really quick, because we're not going to have a chance to talk about him. I just want to give quick props. What's the name of that guy who corners you in the office? Elliot. Let's give quick props to Elliot, who is... Here's another example, by the way, of them like kind of retconning like characters in
because he's not I thought he was.
Oh, he's not?
I don't think he is.
I thought I remember him being the weird guy for Max in the first one. Or
that's what I thought too, but like I think when I looked it up, he's not. He just looks like him.
There's this
I'll
kid,
double check.
There's this kid Elliot who plays, and like all guys out there that were around that age can kind of like feel like bad for this. Like for Chloe, he plays the like, everybody, you're doing everything wrong, everyone's bad for you, but I'm good for you, babe. Like, exactly. I'll treat you right, kind of thing. And there's this, it goes like that, goes on this whole time, and like you're constantly, because you're Chloe and you suck, like stringing him, not really even stringing him along, just like constantly like not like responding to him.
Right,
and he eventually corners you in the
house,
in the office when you're in the DA's office, and like won't let you leave, and it's like a very weird, tense, crazy scene, and he's just like is essentially like, nobody loves you the way I love you,
yeah.
So be with me, and everything will be okay. And it's just like, yikes. So yeah, so Elliot, wow. So yeah, I'm going to finish up on graphics real quick. So just from how everything looks and how the characters look, I was thinking very high. I was thinking like an 8 or so. But I really can't like get over how they can mess up the menu screen. So I'm going to drop it down to a 7. I feel like it's just one of those things you can't mess up. How can you mess that up? It's not like a glitch. It's not like a bug. It's like literally like the menu screen doesn't appear correctly. So like I said, I'm looking at a 7 on that one then.
Yeah, for graphics. Yeah, I mean, I liked the way it looked generally. So I'd go with 7.5 because actually 8 because I do really like the art style.
Like I said, I was thinking an 8, but that menu screen thing is just ridiculous. So we're heading over to our last positive thing we'll be talking about, which is sound. I have, again, really no complaints with here. All the characters are voiced well. I think they do a really good job with getting all the different characters. They have good voices. Even if you don't like the characters like Chloe or Rachel, they do well. There's a lot of like cool indie music that plays in between scenes.
Absolutely. Music's really
I gotta be honest, I don't know if it's like actual indie music that they just pay for licensing or if they like make it for this, but it's good. It really fits the whole like, I'm a teenager, everything's the worst kind of feel. So they really do a good job. There's not a whole heck of a lot of like music like when you're like exploring and stuff, but overall just everything. There's even the small characters that you talk to have like a million lines and they don't say them bad. Like everybody has decent voice. So
absolutely,
I'm gonna cut this one short and say I'm looking at an 8. I have no problems here.
Yeah, I would give it an 8 too. I like I like the music a lot, and I like the character voices were well done. At least like I was, as much as I was annoyed by like Rachel and stuff, like I wasn't annoyed by who was voicing her. Like she was a believable character via the voice. I just didn't like her actions as a character.
So we're heading back over to Fun Factor, and here's where things get not fun. So when I look at Fun Factor, I look at it thus. 10, I had a lot of fun. 5, it passed time. And 1, I hate myself. And why am I playing Resident Evil 6? And again, my golden sombrero for fun factor is always Resident Evil 6. It's so not fun, right?
Right.
That if I didn't give it a 1, I would retcon back and give it a 1, right?
Right.
So my question to myself every time I play a game is if it's good, am I having as much fun as Mario RPG, right? If it's bad, am I having as much fun as Resident Evil 6? You know what? I was less frustrated than Resident Evil 6, and I could kind of zone out a little more because there's less dumb action parts.
There's no action.
So it's not really, 1.
You're not gonna die in this. You're just gonna not click the right thing or whatever.
So it's not a 1 because
But I will say that if you do because there was a thing where you do the argument wrong with Damon, I think at the end, and you die. And then it was we had to just restart from the next checkpoint.
Yeah.
And then there was unskippable cutscenes. So there is a little bit of a game over.
That is true.
Just restarting, while that doesn't seem too bad, is a nightmare.
Then there's
unskippable
can't skip
cutscenes. Any of the cutscenes.
So I would put it this way: I had a tremendous amount of non-fun. This was one of those games that
I had a lot of fun making fun of it.
Yeah, but that's not fair because then Resident Evil 6 would be an 8 out of 10. That was great. That was great to make fun of.
I guess, but not while I was playing it.
Right.
I wasn't making fun of it. This I was making fun of while we were playing.
This one you could because it's so lax. You can't do that in Resident Evil 6 because you're damn it. So I had a tremendous amount of not fun. I was the whole time I was just oh my god, is it over yet? When we got to the end of the first chapter and I was that was a pretty long chapter. Oh, there's 2 more chapters, was then it's bad. And you know what? There's DLC for this, and I didn't even bother to download it. By the way, Parker, I looked up what it is.
I watched it.
Okay, you watched it. So, yeah, it's your, much younger
Max and Chloe.
Max and Chloe, and it's leading...
Before Max leaves.
It's leading up to Max leaving, essentially, from what I read, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, well, no, the big thing, the thing that makes it a Life is Strange game, is you go through this whole thing, you find this treasure map, and you find this. You go and you dig up this buried treasure, and it turns out it was the time capsule that you and Chloe made a year or so prior with Chloe's dad. And he hid it in this way that made it look like a treasure map thing for the intention of them finding it when they were older. And so you have an opportunity to tell Chloe whether it's the time capsule and her dad buried it or not. So basically telling revealing this thing that might make Chloe upset or that whatever. And so that's the big choice thing at the very end of the part or whatever. But yeah, it's basically just fleshing out the story of Max and Chloe before Max leaves.
I wasn't about to spend money on that. No. As my main way of putting that. So
for sure.
I had a tremendous amount of not fun. I already wrote down my answer. It is a 2. I had a tremendous amount of not fun.
Yeah, I would give this a 4 for fun because I did making fun of it while it was happening, and I also did I know this goes back to music and stuff. But I liked the music enough that I was having fun listening to the music. I always have fun being am I gonna know the track that they pick or whatever for this or that because they picked some good music in it. And I did picking Chloe's outfits, the Illuminati, and also picking the type of graffiti she does. There was a couple of little things that I was okay. This is some small redeemable thing. But it's still a 4. I mean, 4 is still well below average.
So let's talk replayability. I have a question for you.
Ugh.
What there are things that you can quote unquote collect in this game. It's the snapshots you can take.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're snapshots or
it's the graffiti.
It's the graffiti, right? You find the graffiti or you make the graffiti.
Right.
Here's my question. In reality, what would it take you to go through it again? Even if you had a fact that told you where all it was,
right?
What would it take you to go through again and do all the graffiti? Knowing, by the way, and this is an important thing in replayability, that there are unskippable cutscenes.
Yeah. I mean, what it would take would be like one or two people that would be dedicated to sit there with me while I did it and enjoy making fun of it.
That you could like talk about it the whole time.
And laugh at it the whole time while I was going through it. So as an adult, it's hard to schedule time for one person to do something, let alone three people. So like that's pretty considerable. Like that's a considerable amount of effort and work and time.
I just like your general thoughts here. It's like, what would it take me to do this? Well, I would need other people to share the pain.
Right.
Is essentially what you're saying.
Yes.
And they would have to.
That's hard.
They would have to take time out of their busy schedule to share the pain.
Exactly.
And it's not something that's so bad that you'd be like, dude.
Oh, right. It's not like The Room. It's not like something that I'm like excited to watch with people and make fun of.
Enough time has passed that if somebody came to me and was like, dude, I want to play co-op Resident Evil 6 with you. And I didn't have to like sit in the same room with them. Like, I would consider it just because it's like, I'd be like, you got to crap talking with me the whole time. And they'd be like, yeah, right? Like, it would take the right person. But like, enough time has passed that I would consider it. I might say, okay, Leon's Quest only.
Okay,
right?
yeah. Okay,
right?
Fair
right?
enough,
I might say that, but like, I don't, like, say if Mush came to us and was like, dude, listen, what if I come over one day and we just do before show? I'd be like, just watch it on YouTube, dude. Like, it's just... I'll be like, I'll hit you up for Life is Strange 2, but like, I can't do this again, right? I just can't, and which is why it doesn't. One is it would cause me physical pain. Like I would rather I would rather have
there are worse
hammer drop on my foot.
Right, there's worse games as far as like a 1. Like that. Like
it's not the longest thing in the like if I absolutely had to, like if someone was like what amount of money? Like, I would do it, I would play through it again the whole way through for $100. Because it would take me probably, like, a full day off, or at least, like, 2 or 3 parts of a day off, which is time I could just sit there and sleep, right? So give me $100 and I'll do it. That's fine. But other than that, we're looking at a 2 out of 10.
I'm with you. Because, I mean, I think 1 should be reserved for, like, when you're just, like physical pain type games where you're just like, I cannot do it.
Yeah, one's reserved for me for like games that are also like unbelievably frustrating, and at least this doesn't have the frustration in that you're not like, I'm dying every second, kind of thing. Right. So
like if the controls are bad, but if the bad controls led to you like constantly restarting parts, like it really doesn't. It's just frustrating to walk around.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like once in a while you'll die because you chose the wrong thing. But like that, and that stinks. But like it wasn't the controls that messed up. It was just like you chose the wrong thing.
The important thing about talking about replayability here, and we're about to wrap up anyway, is the first Life is Strange. I personally find that unless an adventure game is written the exact right way, they actually aren't very replayable right away. The only way I would consider it is if they were like, dude, there's like early on, there's 2 completely different paths you can take. Right? Because if it was like, at the very end, it's like, at the very end you can make this crazy choice, I'd be like, well, let me just restart there, right?
Yeah,
but if they were like, you can choose light side or dark side, I'd be like, cool. Like, imagine a cool Telltale game that's like Star Wars, and it's like, you can literally choose, like, and I'd be like, all right. So, like, Life is Strange, like, once you find out everything that happens, it's, like, cool to go back, and you're like, that's what happened! Oh my gosh, I can rewatch this and know why. But, like, this, replaying it would not bring anything else to the table. You would not... The only new thing you would know is, oh, that was Rachel's mom, but who cares?
Right.
Right? It's like...
Well, the only thing that you would learn is, like, oh, if I chose that other thing, this is what happens.
But
and it still doesn't really affect the story that much. It's just like somebody talks to you in a certain way or whatever,
There's
like
no
there's nothing worse in this game than like the whole not subplot, but there's this whole scene where you go to visit the guy that got his like whole entire football career destroyed because he stole $1,000 from a drug dealer, and he has pudding on his bedside table, and like you can go pick up his pudding to eat it, and he's like, whoa, what are you doing? That's my pudding. And then it triggers an argument, and if you win the argument, he lets you eat the pudding, and then he's like mad about it, and like I thought that I was stealing the pudding to give to Rachel because she was also in the hospital. So that's why I was like, oh, sweet, we gotta win this pudding. It's probably a quest item. And then she just friggin' eats it. And it's like, what has happened? What is this game? Like, what just happened? I do not understand.
And then he is very angsty at you.
Yeah, he's like mean. But then later, you get a text from his brother, and he's like, he's super glad you came to meet him at the hospital. And you're like, what is happening?
In real life, there would be this awkward text about a pudding, like, did you really have to eat his pudding?
My brother's not doing too good. He said that he really wanted that pudding.
They say he's on death's door. But you know what it saved him?
It's a pudding-related coma he went into. It's like, what the?
Yeah, that was...
He went into low blood sugar.
We didn't even try to do it. Sometimes in adventure games, you just click on items because they're there.
Like,
and it was just like, hey, like the first thing that was like, are you going to eat that? And it's like, just stop this.
You're like, quit. And then it's like, oh, let's fight over it. And it's like... Okay, it must be important. This item must be important. Maybe you're going to give it to somebody. Like, maybe you give it to the firefighters outside that are, like, mourning their fallen, like coworker.
Here's the pudding, bud.
It's like, here you go. Away. I know that your brother in arms died, but here's some pudding. And it's like, nope, she just eats it in front of him. And it's like, oh, my gosh. So ridiculous.
So, we will... I think Life is Strange 2 is, like, out.
Did you figure out the thing?
What?
Did you do?
I forgot.
No.
So, overall, the scores, mine came up to a 4.7. Parker's was a 5 even. We almost don't, like, I'm going to go back and find which one we were, like, the most disagreeing on. Generally, we're on the same page here. One of these times, we're going to find one. It was probably Arkham Origins. I actually kind of like that game, and you rather did not. So, I think we were, like, 2 apart on that, and that's actually pretty big. So, Life is Strange 2 is, like... out or coming out soon,
or the first episode's out.
The first episode, yeah. So
like,
I don't want to
sit around and wait.
Yeah. By the way, Telltale Games is no longer a thing, and let me tell you, I cannot. There's probably a lot of reasons why. You know, when stuff like this goes down, a lot of it's the management, whatever. But you know what didn't help? Having them release the physical season for a game, like the physical disc, and then having only the first 2 episodes being available at the time. Like, yes, the 3 through 5 were, like, paid for, and you could download them when they comes out, but literally buying the physical disc and having to still wait for the last 3 episodes is
dumb.
Really dumb. And
like don't release it release it online only, and then when it's all done and out, then release a disc.
It's like it's like they couldn't wait for it. And you know what? I loved Walking Dead Season 1. I loved Wolf Among Us. Thought that was a great game.
Oh, I you know, Walking Dead Season 1, you're like, oh man, I can't wait to see how the story of Clementine ends. Oh, well, sorry. It's just over.
Wait, Season 2, she's in it.
No, they're not going to finish. There's another part, though.
Oh, right.
And they're just not going to...
No, so here's the deal. Walking Dead Season 1 and then Walking Dead Season 2 is Clementine when she's, like, more BA. Right. And then Walking Dead The Final Frontier... the New Frontier is literally unrelated in any way. So they were supposed to...
Wait.
The third one. So the third one, it's the one I gave you. You might actually have it right over there. Remember, I was like, you gotta play this. It sucks so bad.
Oh, okay.
It's just
there is another Clementine
it's
part.
It's called Walking Dead, the final chapter or the final season. And I was like, kind of stoked for it. And then like...
And now it's...
But apparently somebody picked it up. I just heard that somebody picked it up. Cool. But yeah, I like adventure games. And if just a company can make them good...
Yeah,
you know, that'd be nice.
I mean, I thought, like, we would be fine for a while because, like, even though Telltale isn't the greatest, like, still they were
you're right.
it.
We're actually...
And I was like, oh, sweet, this is going to be great. There's going to be a steady influx of just, like, mediocre adventure games for a while, and then it's like, oh...
I gotta be honest, I'd rather, like, wade through all the mediocre, like, stuff by one company, I know what they put out, than, like, take my chances on a bunch of, like, indie Steam games. And that's what we're at. There's like, that's what it's going to be. Like, if we want to play an adventure game, and it's like, if it's anything like the indie horror games, it's like, once in a while, there's like, oh my god, Outlast.
This is great.
Right?
Yeah.
But like, for everything else, there, like, for every one of those, there's 1,000 of like, ooh boy. You watch the movie, like, the one with the Ring. You watch The Ring, and you just made, like, every cliche possible. So
exactly.
It's a sad day for adventure games. Life is Strange 2, soon, though. We'll talk about it, and we'll have some fun with that. And Life is Strange Before the Storm. More like before
the next thing we'll talk about too is Human.
Oh
Detroit.
yeah. Detroit Become Human will probably be the next one that we do.
And that's a good adventure game.
Get ready for it's good. Did you only play the first half?
I didn't play it yet. We're gonna probably differ a lot on this one because I feel like I'll like it a lot and you won't.
Yeah, get ready for this. Life is Strange Before the Suck because it sucks. I've been waiting an hour to say that. I know.
That's all I have.
Thank you for listening. We appreciate it. Before the Suck.